Hi guys, today we are going to cover the last topic under International Business Management, which is International Human Resource Management. This is also the final topic for our course Introduction to International Business. This final topic examines on how a company acquires and manages its most important resources, which are employees. So, before we proceed further, let's recap what we have covered in the previous topic. In the last topic, we covered four categories of strategies that a company uses in international business. Under the bottom of the pyramid, we have two international strategies, which are multinational and global strategy. And there are four key approaches to corporate level strategies, which are growth, retrenchment, stability, and combination. Under business level strategy, a business unit can use one of the three business strategies for competing in its industry, such as low-cost leadership, differentiation, and focus. In order to reach corporate and business level objectives, it depends on effective department strategies. There are primary activities and support activities which create value for customers. We also explored the four organizational structures that are common for most international companies. First, we have international division structure. This structure has its own manager that keeps domestic and international activities separate. International area structure. For this structure, it organizes a company global operations into countries or regions. And in global product structure, it divides worldwide operation according to a company product areas. This structure is suitable for a company that have multiple business lines. Last, global matrix structure. This structure split the chain of command between product and area division. Each manager reports to two bosses. And there are two important issues to be considered when selecting the organizational structure, which are centralization and decentralization decision making, as well as coordination and flexibility. There are three learning objectives in today's topic. I hope that after this topic, you should be able to first, explain the three types of staffing policy that company use in international business. Second, describe the key human resource recruitment and selection issues. Last, summarize the main training and development programs that firm use. So, before we start exploring the type of staffing policies, we will be briefly discussing on what is human resource management. Human resource management, or simply referred as HRM, is the process of staffing a company and ensuring that employees are as productive as possible. It requires managers to be effective in recruiting, selecting, training, developing, evaluating, and compensating employees, as well as in forming good relationship with them. International HRM differ from HRM in domestic setting due to the differences in international business environment. We have covered the three main international business environments, which are culture, political and legal system, as well as economics. They are concerned over the employment of expatriates, which refer to citizens of one country who are living and working in another. Companies must deal with many issues when they have expatriate employees. Some of these issues are related to the inconvenience and stress of living in an unfamiliar culture. So, there are three types of staffing policies as shown in this diagram. In ethnocentric staffing, Individuals from the home country manage operation abroad. For example, a company in Malaysia has a subsidiary in Singapore. So, the company will send their own Malaysian staff to run the operation in Singapore. This policy appeals to companies that want to control over decision making in offices abroad and also formulate policy to work in every countries of operation. This policy is suitable only for managerial positions under this staffing policy. In polycentric staffing, individuals from the host country manage operation abroad. Back to the example, instead of sending all Malaysian staff to run operation in Singapore, the company will hire local people of Singapore to manage their business. This policy is well suited to companies that want to give autonomy in decision making. This policy also suits to all levels of position from the top and mid-level posts to lower level staff as well as non-managerial workers. In geocentric staffing, best qualified individuals, regardless of nationality, manage operation abroad. Under this policy, the company can either have their own Malaysian staff or hire local people of Singapore or people from other nationalities such as Indonesian and Thais to manage the subsidiary. This policy also similar to ethnocentric policy, which reserve the right to higher position for top level managers. Okay, now we will be comparing the advantages and disadvantages of each policy. For ethnocentric staffing, firms pursue this policy for several reasons. First, locally qualified people are not always available. In particular, in developing and newly industrialized countries, there is often a shortage of qualified personnel which create a highly competitive local labor market. Therefore, by sending on people from the home country to manage the host country operation will be preferable. Second, company use ethnocentric. Okay, now we will be comparing the advantages and disadvantages of each staffing policy. Under ethnocentric staffing, firms pursue this policy for several reasons. First, locally qualified people are not always available. In developing and newly industrialized countries, there is often a shortage of qualified people that creates a highly competitive local labor market. Therefore, by sending local people from the home country, okay, now we will be comparing the advantages and disadvantages of each staffing policies. Firms pursue ethnocentric staffing policy due to several advantages. First, locally qualified people are not always available. In developing and newly industrialized countries, there is often a shortage of qualified personnel that creates a highly competitive local labor market. Therefore, by sending on people from the home country to manage operation abroad, it will ensure the most qualified people will be handling the subsidiary operation. In addition, by sending on people from the home country to the host country, the company can ensure a tight control over the subsidiary. They will be performing the same operation similar to the operation of the home country. Company also use ethnocentric staffing to recreate local operation in the image of home country operation. This policy is important for companies that need a strong set of shared values among the people in each international office. By the same token, a system of shared values is important when a company international units are highly interdependent. For instance, fashioning branch operation in the image of home office operation can also ease the transfer of special know-how. This advantage is particularly valuable when know-how is rooted in the expertise and experience of home country's manager. Finally, some companies also feel that managers sent from the home country will look out for more of the company interests than will host country people or native. Companies that operate in highly nationalistic market and those worry about industrial espionage also typically find an ethnocentric staffing policy more appealing. However, there are some disadvantages of ethnocentric staffing. First, relocating managers from the home country is expensive. The bonus that managers often receive from relocating plus relocation expenses, especially those with family, can increase the cost of a manager several times over. Second, an ethnocentric policy can create barriers for the host country office. The presence of home country managers in the host country might encourage a foreign image of the business. Lower level employees might feel that managers do not really understand their needs because they come from another culture. Polycentric staffing policy place the managerial responsibility in the hands of people who are intimately familiar with the local business environment. Managers with deep cultural understanding of the local market can be an enormous advantage. They are familiar with local business practices and can read the subtle cues of both verbal and non-verbal language. They need not overcome any cultural barriers created by an image of being an outsider, and they're able to tend to have better feel for the needs of employees, customers, and suppliers. Another important advantage of polycentric staffing is elimination of the high cost of relocating expatriate managers and family. This benefit can be extremely helpful for small and medium-sized businesses that cannot afford the expenses associated with expatriate employees, which relocating the home country manager to the host country operation. The major drawback of polycentric staffing is the potential for losing control of the host country operation. When a company employs people of each country to manage local operations, it runs the risk of becoming a collection of discrete national businesses. This situation might not be a problem when a firm's strategy calls for treating each national market differently. It is not a good policy, however, for companies that allowing and following global strategies. If this company lack integration, knowledge sharing and common image, performance will surely suffer. Geocentric staffing helps a company develop global managers who can adjust easily to any business environment, particularly to cultural differences. This advantage is especially useful for global companies who are trying to break down nationalistic barriers, whether between managers in a single office or between different offices. One hope of companies using this policy is that a global perspective among its managers will help them seize opportunity that may otherwise be overlooked. The downside of geocentric staffing is the expenses. Understandably, top managers who are capable both of fitting into different cultures and being effective at their jobs are highly prized among international companies. Therefore, the combination of high demand for their skill and the short supply increase their salaries. Moreover, there is the expense of relocating managers and their families. Now we are in the second learning objective, human resource recruitment and selection issues. There are three important stages. under human resource recruitment and selection issues. First, we have human resource planning, which is the process of forecasting a company human resource needs and its supply. Next, we have recruitment, which is the process of identifying and attracting a qualified pool of applicants for vacant positions. And the last one, selections, which is the process of screening and hiring the best qualified applicants with the greatest performance potential. So, we will be covering each of these processes in detail on the next slide. First, we will be covering human resource planning, which is forecasting a company human resource needs and its supply. Under this process, it involves three phases of activities. Phase 1, we have the planning of taking an inventory of a company's current human resources. That is, collecting data on every employee, including their educational background, special job skill, previous job, language skill, and experience living abroad. The second phase of human resource planning is estimating the company's future human resource needs. For example, consider a firm that plans to sell its product directly to buyers in a new market abroad. Will it create a new operation abroad and staff it with managers from the home office, or will it train local managers in the host country? Will it hire its own local sales force or will it hire a distributor? Likewise, manufacturing or assembling products in an international market requires factory workers. A company must decide whether to hire these people itself or to subcontract production to other producers to eliminate the need for it to hire new workers. Then we have the third phase, that is manager develop a plan for recruiting and selecting people to fill in vacant and anticipated new positions, both managerial and non-managerial. Sometimes a firm must also make plans for reducing its workers, a process called recruitment when current human resource levels are greater than anticipated needs. Next process is recruitment. Companies can recruit internally from among their current employees or from external sources such as recent college graduates, local managerial talent, and non-managerial workers. Current employees can be good candidates for an international assignment, especially if they have contact and experience working in the host country. Recent college graduates who came from other countries to study in the firm home country can be good recruits if they are given adequate training and exposure to the corporate culture. Hiring local managerial talent is common when cultural understanding and local contacts are needed on the job. And companies also tend to recruit locally for non-managerial workers to fill in jobs that require few specialized skills. Okay, now we are in the last process, selection. This process is very important to ensure that the best qualified applicants with the greatest performance potential are hired. The process for international assignment includes measuring a person's ability to bridge cultural differences. That is, expatriate managers must be able to adapt to a new way of life in the host country. Conversely, native host country managers must also be able to work effectively with superiors who have different cultural backgrounds. In the case of expatriate managers, cultural differences between home country and host country are important factors in their potential success. Culturally sensitive managers increase the likelihood that a company will achieve its international business goal. Recruiters can assess cultural sensitivity by asking candidates questions about their receptiveness to new ways of doing things and questions about racial and ethnic issues. They can also use global aptitude tests to assess an employee readiness for an international assignment. Successful international managers typically do not mind and often enjoy living and working outside their native lands. However, living in another culture can be a stressful experience. Selecting manager comfortable traveling to and living in an unfamiliar culture, therefore, is an extremely important factor when recruiting for international posts. Set down in the midst of new culture, many expatriates experience culture shock, which is a psychological process that affects people living abroad, and it is characterized by negative emotions such as homesickness, irritability, confusion, aggravation, and depression. In other words, they have trouble adjusting to the new environment in which they find themselves. Therefore, they might lead to expatriate failure. That is, the early return by an employee from an international assignment because of inadequate job performance. This often results from cultural stress by living in a new environment. Ironically, expatriates who are successfully adapt to new culture often undergo an experience called reverse culture shock. That is the psychological process of readapting to one home culture. Because value and behavior that once seemed natural now seem strange. Reverse culture shock may be even more disturbing than culture shock. Returning managers often find that either no position or merely a standby position awaits them in the home office. Companies often do not know how to take full advantage of the cross-cultural abilities developed by managers who have spent several potential valuable years around. It is not uncommon for expatriates to leave their companies within a year of returning home because of difficulty blending back into the company culture and the home country culture. Moreover, spouses and children often have difficulty leaving the adopted culture and returning home. And how to deal with reverse culture shock? There will be programs such as home culture reorientation, career counseling session, and career development program. This kind of program will allow the return expatriate to readjust back to normal and back to the home country culture. Okay, now we are on the last part of today's topic, training and development programs. After a company recruits and selects its managers and other employees, it normally identifies the skill and knowledge that employees have and those that they need in order to perform their duties. Employees who lack the necessary skill or knowledge can be then directed into specific training or development goals. Okay, now we are on the final part of today's topic, training and development programs. After a company recruits and selects its managers and other employees, it normally identifies the skill and knowledge that the employees have and those that they need in order to perform their duties. Employees who lack the necessary skill or knowledge can then be directed into specific training or development programs. As we can see in this figure, companies use many methods to prepare managers for an international assignment. This method tends to reflect a manager's level of international involvement. The goal of this training and development program is to create informed, open-minded, flexible managers with a level of cultural training appropriate to the duties required to them. So, we will be starting with the program under the bottom of the pyramid. Environmental briefing and cultural orientation constitute the most basic level of training, which is often the starting point for studying other cultures. Briefing includes information on local housing, healthcare, transportation, school, and climate. Such knowledge is normally obtained from books, films, and lectures. Cultural orientation offers insight into social, political, legal, and economic environment. Their purpose is to add depth and substance to environmental briefing. Next, we have cultural assimilation and sensitivity training. Cultural assimilation teach the culture values, attitude, manners, and custom, basically the do and don'ts. It also typically includes role play exercises. The trainee responds to a specific situation and is evaluated by a team of judges. This method is often used when someone is given little notice of a short stay abroad and wishes to take a crash course in social and business etiquette and communication. Sensitivity training teaches people to be considerate and understanding of other people's feeling and emotion. It gets the trainee under the skin of the local people. And moving higher, we have language training. The need for more thorough cultural preparedness brings us to intensive language training. This level of training entails more than memorizing phrases for ordering dinner or asking direction. It gets a trainee into the mind of local people. The trainee learns more about why local people behave as they do. This is perhaps the most critical part of cultural training for long-term assignment. And the last one, the highest of the pyramid on the top, field experience, means visiting the culture, walking the street of its cities and village, and become absorbed by it for a short time. The trainee gets to enjoy some of the unique cultural traits and to feel some of the stresses inherent in living in the culture. So that's all for today, and let's recap what we have covered from the beginning of today's topic. We covered the three types of staffing policy, which we have ethnocentric staffing, that is individual from the home country manage operation abroad. Then we have polycentric staffing, which we have individual from the host country manage operation abroad. And the last one, geocentric staffing, the best qualified individual regardless of nationally managed operation abroad. And we have discussed that for both ethnocentric and geocentric staffing, it is usually reserved for top management position, whereas for polycentric staffing, it works for all level of position from the top management level to the low level staff and also non-managerial position. And we also discussed the three significant process of human resources recruitment and selection, which are human resource planning, recruitment and selection. These three important process is very important to ensure that the best person is employed and hired into the company. And the last one, we talk about the training and program developments that important for the managers in order to prepare them for the international assignment. Here is the link for the practices on this topic. Hope that you can try to gauge your understanding on this topic by doing these practices. And that's all for today and this topic. Thank you very much and bye bye.